My eyelids flickered in protest as the searing light filtered in. Disorientation flooded me. Where was that incessant beeping coming from? That awful metallic taste hadn't left my mouth since when, exactly? Forcing my heavy lids open was an Olympian effort. Shapes danced before my blurred vision, resolving slowly into stark white walls and the complex network of pipes and monitors flanking me. Panic shot through me. My heart, rusty and unused, pounded in my ears as I thrashed feebly against the restraints on my wrists and ankles. A muffled shout, a sharp sting in my arm, then the world went mercifully dark. The second time I woke, it was gentler. There was an absence of urgency in the air. Light filtering through what I now realized was a small viewport soothed rather than alarmed. I felt heavy, sluggish, but the restraints were gone. My mind was still encased in thick fog, memories wispy and incomplete. Trying to gather those shreds of the past was like scooping water with a sieve. My voice, when I managed it, was a rough, broken croak. Hello. The answer came in soft tones, not in any language I recognized. A willowy figure swathed in silvery fabric materialized beside me. Humanoid, at least, with large, expressive eyes that held a wary mix of curiosity and concern. The being held out a palm, an open gesture that crossed whatever cultural barriers may exist. Welcome, they said. I blinked, the word an echo of something lost. Welcome where? Can you understand me? A surge of something like hope. I tried to sit up, but weakness washed over me. Yes. I think so. The alien, because they could be nothing else, smiled. It wasn't quite a human smile, but the intent was clear. Good. We had our doubts, given your stasis. Stasis? The word tasted foreign, my tongue clumsy as it tried to shape the syllables. How long? How long was I asleep? Many cycles of our star, they said gently. We estimate approximately 1,000 Earth revolutions. 1,000 years. The realization hung in the air between us like a death sentence. Not dead, then, but a relic, a ghost from a time so distant it may as well have been myth. My body, while sore, seemed whole. I flexed my fingers, my toes. No damage? After all that time? Your people were clever, the alien said, a hint of respect entering their voice. The suspension pods were marvels of self-preservation. There was a pause. They weren't built to last this long, even with our interventions. Interventions? It meant they had found me, my pod, whatever vessel I'd been adrift in. Where was I? Not Earth, certainly. The taste of the air filtered through the pod was wrong, and the pull of gravity a shade too light. Where am I? The question felt heavy in my mouth, laced with a dread I couldn't name. You are safe, they said carefully. We are the Lyri. This is our sanctuary world. Lyri, I repeated. The word felt strange on my tongue. My hand twitched towards my face, expecting stubble, a beard. Something. My skin was baby smooth. They'd taken care of me. All that time. My name, I began. That much I did remember. My name is. And just like that, it was gone. My name. My identity. Stolen by the long sleep. Do not distress yourself, the Lyri touched my arm, the gesture light and cool. Memories sometimes struggle to return after such prolonged stasis. It will come to you. For now, you must rest. But my crew, I rasped, panic rising again. The others? There had to be others. Every instinct screamed that I wasn't supposed to be alone. Their expression was a mask of pity. I'm sorry. You are the only survivor we were able to retrieve intact. I stared at them, 1,000 fragmented images flashing through my mind. Faces blurred, snatches of laughter and voices not my own, a sense of a shared mission. But what mission? And where had they all gone? Numbness threatened to consume me. I felt adrift, a piece of flotsam tossed on tides light years away from home. I don't. My voice failed me, the question dying in my throat. I didn't know if I wanted to hear the answer. My Lyri savior touched my shoulder. It's a lot to take in. Your body needs time to readjust, and your spirit even more so. Sleep now. When you wake, perhaps the pieces will have begun to fall into place. They left then, dimming the lights as they went. I lay there in the semi-darkness, the ship's gentle hum a lullaby. Sleep was a welcome escape, a way to shut out the enormity of what I'd lost and the terror of the unknown that lay before me. I was a survivor, the last of what? A failed mission? An extinct species? It was impossible to know just yet. In truth, I wasn't sure if I was ready to face the answers. My memory was a shattered mirror, and the reflection looking back at me felt utterly alien. The life I'd lived might as well have been someone else's dream. The earth I loved, assuming it even still existed, was dust and starlight across unimaginable distances. I'd lost more than a name, more than a crew. I'd lost an entire world. Grief settled in my bones, an ache I knew would be my constant companion. But I was alive. Out of time, out of place, but miraculously, still alive. And, maybe naively, somewhere deep inside me a flicker of hope persisted. If 1,000 years couldn't end the journey, maybe it was just beginning. The Leary were true to their word. They fed me, simple broths and pale fruits that tasted of nothing I recognized. I learned their language through patient tutoring, my tongue fumbling over their soft vowels and clicking consonants. My mysterious rescuer, whose name was Alara, visited often. They brought me fragments of their culture, strange music played on bone flutes, stories painted in vibrant dye on stretched hides. Yet, as my body grew stronger, as the puzzle of Leary words started to make sense, the gnawing uncertainty inside me gnawed ever louder. I needed more than sustenance and distraction. I needed answers. One day, strength finally coursing through my limbs, I pushed myself upright and swung my legs over the edge of the cot. "Elara," I called out, testing my voice. It still held a raspy edge, but it was mine. "I need to know." My benefactor appeared within minutes, a look of mild apprehension in their large eyes. "You have regained your strength more quickly than anticipated. Perhaps it's time." Time for what? My heart beat fast, a mix of fear and desperate anticipation. To see the truth. With those cryptic words, Alara led me out of my confines. The sanctuary world, as they called it, was a strange paradise. The air, crisp and faintly spiced, filled my lungs. Lush foliage, bursting with colors my earthborn eyes couldn't fathom, sprawled across rolling hills. Gentle creatures with iridescent scales grazed peacefully, their presence soothed the turmoil in my soul. My bare feet sank into the soft, spongy ground, a sensation both novel and strangely comforting. And there, nestled in the valley below, was the answer to so many questions. Gleaming silver under twin suns, its outline was both achingly familiar and horrifyingly wrong, a spaceship. Not, however, the sleek vessel of interstellar exploration I'd half hoped for. This was a wreck, broken open and half buried in the verdant earth. "Our scouts found your ship almost 2 cycles ago," Alara said, their voice somber. "It had crashed on our farthest moon, torn apart, debris scattered." Memories jolted me with their fragmented fury, a blinding flash, alarm screaming, the sickening lurch as the familiar laws of physics gave way. "What happened?" I managed, the taste of metallic fear returning. "We don't know," Alara said. "No mayday, no sign of struggle. One moment your ship was charting a safe route, the next. This." We picked our way closer, and I stifled a gasp. The wreckage bore the insignia, a stylized comet, a symbol imprinted on me as deeply as my own name should have been. This was my vessel, my mission. The crash had been catastrophic. What wasn't buried under layers of soil had been warped, twisted, whole sections blackened by fire or torn loose entirely. It was a tomb and I was the last of its parish. We came upon the pod bay. My breath hitched. Even shredded and ravaged by catastrophe I recognized them, the smooth curves, the subtle luminescence that had always pulsed with life. Yet, they were empty. Rot had long ago turned their interiors into soupy mulch. They were non-functional, Alara said hesitantly. "It seems your stasis systems failed sometime shortly after the crash. We retrieved your pod, the only one intact, hoping. But it was too late for your companions." A scream tore itself out of me, a raw, primal sound that echoed across the silent valley. My knees buckled, and I would have collapsed if not for Alara's arm catching me. They made no move to comfort me, to offer false platitudes. They simply let grief wash over me, its icy waves threatening to drag me under. The crew, faces I couldn't conjure but whose laughter haunted my waking moments, were gone. Reduced to dust and decaying pods. When the sobs subsided, leaving me a hollow, trembling wreck, I managed to ask the question that burned like acid: why? Why me? Why this cruel preservation while everyone I'd known and shared a mission with perished? Alara, ever patient, said softly, "We do not know. Perhaps chance, perhaps a malfunction in your pod alone. Such advanced technology, built in an age before even our records begin." They trailed off thoughtfully, "It holds secrets we cannot yet decipher." Secrets. That word, hanging in the fragrant air, felt both mocking and tantalizing. There was an answer to be found, a reason for my inexplicable survival, but it lay buried in the jumble of twisted metal and shattered dreams. The following days were a blur of relentless activity. The Lyri, with their lithe forms and surprisingly advanced tools, aided me in examining the wreckage. It felt simultaneously sacred and obscene, sifting through the broken lives of my crew. We found scraps of clothing, personal effects melted beyond recognition, fragments of what must have been logs and data corrupted by 1,000 years of exposure. Yet, the harder I searched, the more a terrible truth settled in my guts. The ship had not simply failed, someone or something had sabotaged it. Power relays were deliberately severed, vital systems overridden, and the black box, the heart of every ship's recording system, was missing entirely. When I confronted Alara with this evidence, they didn't feign surprise. We suspected treachery from the first. But to find proof, it is a dark shadow over your discovery. You have to help me, I said, desperation rough in my voice. You have the tech, the knowledge. Maybe you can find something I'm missing. To my relief, Alara agreed readily. You have endured loss and exile, yet you thirst for the truth. That is something my people respect. We spent long, grueling days sifting through the wreckage. Lyri eyes excelled at finding patterns in the chaos I couldn't see, and their fingers delicately manipulated ancient circuitry in a way I never could. Finally, days turned into a week, and that week to a cycle of our new sun, until, one pale afternoon, I let out a triumphant shout that startled a flock of jewel-winged birds into flight. Here. I held up a dated chip, its surface marred but miraculously unshattered. Do you think you can access it? Their eyes widened, a flicker of excitement mirroring my own. Perhaps. Our archives house fragments of knowledge on your people's technology. With luck. We didn't have luck, we had Alara's skill, and their unfaltering determination. Using cobbled-together rigs, splicing Lyri systems with ancient human tech in a way that should never have worked, they retrieved the data stored in the chip. It was my missing memory. Logs, mission parameters, and, buried deepest amongst the official recordings, a final, desperate message from my captain. My hands shook as the grainy image of my captain filled the projection screen. Gone was the jovial, reassuring leader I remembered. This woman was gaunt, with haunted eyes set deep in a face etched with strain. If you're seeing this, she began, her voice barely above a whisper, then I'm dead. And chances are, you will be soon, too. She swallowed with a harsh click. We were never meant to reach Eden 2. Eden 2. Our destination. A planet so perfect it held the promise of a new beginning for a dying Earth. I felt the ground sway beneath me, the sanctuary world morphing into a sinister trap. I turned to Alara, who stared back, mirroring my growing horror. We have a traitor amongst us, the captain continued, her voice trembling but fueled by a cold rage. Someone who thinks humanity doesn't deserve a second chance. Someone who'd rather see us all burn than start over. She went on to detail the ship's systematic sabotage, the severed lines, the corrupted logs, all executed with chilling precision. Each word was a hammer blow to my understanding of the mission, of the people I'd trusted with my life. But the most brutal revelation came at the end. I've hidden the black box, the captain said, a glimmer of defiance flashing in her tired eyes. It's the only evidence of who did this. And if you want the truth, well, you don't have many options left, do you? She cut the transmission. I sat there, stunned. My survival was no accident, or fluke of fate. My captain, in a desperate gamble against annihilation, had set me on this path. A path steeped in betrayal and a hunt for a killer who might be hiding in plain sight. Your captain was a brilliant woman, Alara said, breaking the heavy silence. And a brave one, to trust the fate of your kind to one who survived by mere chance. Chance, or something more. Unease coiled in my gut. Had the saboteur deliberately targeted every pod but mine? Was I simply the next pawn in someone's twisted game? The Lyri, to their credit, didn't shy away from the dangerous truth. They pledged their full support. The brightest minds their peaceful world had to offer would aid me in finding that hidden black box. But before the search could begin, the question gnawing at my soul had to be answered. Why me? I rasped, staring at my own reflection in the darkened screen. Why preserve me to bear witness to this treachery? Alara pondered, tapping a slender finger against their chin. Your mission was a beacon of hope for countless people. To extinguish that hope entirely. It would be the final, cruelest blow. Having a survivor to spread the tale of betrayal, on the other hand. They let the sentence hang, unspoken. Their implication was chilling. I was both a witness and a weapon, A symbol of the mission's failure, designed to spread doubt and disillusion. Would I crumble under the weight of this knowledge, or would I rise, fueled by the same cold fury that had driven my captain? My hands clenched into fists. My crew, my purpose, my world. It had all been stolen. But I wouldn't be a pawn. I would find that black box. I would expose the traitor, even if it meant turning this peaceful sanctuary upside down. Earth might be beyond salvation, but I owed it to my captain, to the names I would never remember, to fight for the sliver of hope they had sacrificed everything for. One thing was certain, I was no longer simply a survivor adrift. I was a hunter. And the chase was just beginning. Finding the black box quickly became the sole focus of our existence. Using fragmented star charts and cryptic coordinates from the salvaged data chip, we narrowed down the search area to the planet's far side, a region the mild-mannered Leary referred to as the Storm Lands. True to their name, the area was a churning maelstrom of violent weather, where electrical storms whipped the desolate landscape and jagged peaks clawed at an eternally angry sky. Yet, hope burned through me like a stubborn ember. This is where I would find the answer, the key to unraveling the treachery at the heart of our mission. It was all I had left. The Leary, despite lacking the technology for venturing into the eye of the storm, proved invaluable in the preparations. Using their knowledge of atmospheric patterns, they devised a shielded transport pod that would offer a fleeting chance of piercing the tempest long enough to search the most likely crash sites. They outfitted me with a protective suit, the material an odd mix of archaic metals and woven plant fibers imbued with a faint luminescence that Alara claimed would help ward off the worst of the storm's fury. "It's not infallible," they warned, a rare note of worry in their usually tranquil voice. "Do not linger. Find what you seek, and return quickly." I nodded, my determination hardening under their gaze. As the launch hour approached, a strange sense of serenity came over me. Not acceptance, but a grim resolve. Earth was gone, my crew was gone, and now I was stepping into a maelstrom on an alien world, chasing the ghost of a woman who'd entrusted me with a terrible truth. Madness, by any other measure. Yet, it was the only sanity I had left. The journey was every bit as brutal as promised. The pod bucked and shuddered, the storm howling like a wounded beast around its reinforced shell. My vision was a blur of blinding flashes and whipping debris, the world outside reduced to an angry strobe of grays and blues. Each brutal jolt made me fear the pod would shatter open, offering me as a sacrifice to the uncaring sky. And then, as suddenly as it started, it was over. The pod thudded to the ground, wreathed in smoke and hissing steam. I forced the hatch open, the sudden silence almost more alarming than the relentless assault. Barren rocks stretched around me, scoured clean by the tempest. The only signs of life were twisted, skeletal trees with blackened bark, like mocking hands raised in warning. The air hummed and crackled, making the hair on my arms dance, and the tang of ozone was sharp in every breath. My captain's message, a phantom whispering in my ears, spurred me on. I scanned the ravaged landscape, my eyes instinctively seeking the wreckage of our ship. It wasn't hard to find. Twisted hunks of the vessel lay scattered across the blasted plains, half buried in the black sand. I clambered over the remains, the storm-smoothed metal feeling both alien and agonizingly familiar. Despair clawed at me. How could I find one tiny box in this graveyard? Then, I saw it. A glint of metal half concealed beneath a crumpled wing section. My heart stuttered. Could it be? I ran, my boots sinking in the yielding ground, and pried the wreckage aside with a strength born of desperation. There it was. The black box. Dented and scarred, but intact. In that moment, holding that artifact, I felt a surge of something akin to triumph. I had defied distance, death, and a world that tried relentlessly to destroy me. The traitor would not win so easily. My hasty return journey was a blur. In the safety of Alara's workroom, I hooked the battered box to their most sophisticated data retrieval system, fingers trembling as much from the lingering effects of the storm as from anticipation. The Leary watched silently, an air of hushed respect surrounding the proceedings. This wasn't just technology to them, it was a sacred relic, the last testament of a mission teetering on the brink of legend. The screen flickered to life, a grainy waterfall of static that made my head ache. I leaned in, heart pounding. Images began to resolve, fragmented and distorted figures moving wordlessly through cramped corridors, instrument panels flashing urgent warnings, then the abrupt lurch that must have been the moments before the crash. Suddenly, a flicker of movement in the corner of the frame caught my eye. A figure, intentionally hidden from the main camera's view, hunched over a control panel, fingers flying with practiced speed. I gasped, rewinding the footage and zooming with shaking hands. There was no mistaking the angle of that jaw, the distinctive birthmark high on their cheekbone. I knew that face. Elara, I whispered, my voice barely recognizable, a hoarse croak in the echoing silence. I know who it is. My gentle, patient friend. My savior. The traitor. Elara watched me, their wide eyes no longer mirroring my shock and betrayal, but simmering with something dark and dangerous. You are perceptive, they said, their voice eerily calm, the melodic lyre tone stripped bare and replaced with an icy edge. Most humans wouldn't notice. Then, a predatory smile touched their lips. But then, you're not most humans, are you? I stared, my mind reeling. But why? I managed to choke out. You saved me. You helped me. A dismissive wave of their hand cut my words short. Expediency. A survivor was crucial to disseminating the story of your doomed voyage, spreading the seeds of doubt. Despair is contagious. My legs gave way, and I slumped onto the floor, staring at my savior-turned-monster. Earth. Was the target all along? Earth? Elara's laugh was a harsh, bitter bark. Oh no, your precious Earth means nothing to me. Your species, however, that's a different story. They paced the room restlessly, a strange energy crackling around them. Your drive, your blind ambition. The arrogance that makes you think you can tame whole worlds. I've seen where that leads. I saw it burn my own world into cinders long ago. The pieces started to fall into place with horrific clarity. The lyre weren't just a gentle race. They were refugees, the survivors of a cosmic war humanity had never even known existed. And I was the walking, talking echo of their tormentors. Sabotaging the mission was easy, they said, pacing back to me with a predator's grace. Your kind is so predictable. One well-placed whisper of dissent, the promise of power, and you tear yourselves apart with impressive efficiency. They knelt, bringing themselves eye to eye with me. Their fingers traced the line of my cheek, and I flinched away from the touch that had once offered solace. You want answers, human? Why you? Why now? They leaned closer, the scent of their breath, a faint floral thing that suddenly turned my stomach, because the game isn't over yet. A sound echoed behind me, then a strangled cry. I whipped around to see two lyre warriors dragging another of their kind into the room. A smaller figure whose familiar, pleading eyes were wide with terror. My sister, Elara hissed, amusement twisting their features. She doesn't agree with me, the little fool. Thinks collaboration is the answer. But you see, for collaboration to work, humanity has to stop existing as you know it. They motioned to the warriors. Take my sister. She has displeased me for the last time. They stood and turned their back on me, dismissing me as easily as swatting an insect. As for you, your tale has spread far and wide. Now for the final act. I struggled to my feet, rage and a desperate, dawning fear burning away the shock. What are you going to do? They didn't answer. Instead, they crossed the room to a console I'd never noticed before. With a delicate movement of their fingers, they activated it. A shimmering field sprang to life, a pulsating oval of iridescent light that hummed with barely contained power. A gate. A portal. Whatever it wasn't of lyre design. You humans have a saying, I believe, Elara's voice echoed from across the room, laced with an anticipatory purr. Fight fire with fire. I've simply found a slightly more advanced kind of fire. As I gaped in horror, a shape began to coalesce within the portal. I could make out hulking silhouettes, the glint of metallic armor, and the flicker of eyes that blazed with the light of a terrible, alien intelligence. They weren't lyre. Of that, I was certain. This was the true enemy Elara had summoned. The force that would make my species, and the memory of Earth, burn with the same apocalyptic intensity as their lost homeworld.